Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of November 2024. I hope you are well. We're using the Spellcaster's Tarot for you today. I had to double check because this is a brand new deck that just suddenly popped out, wanted to be used for, I think it was Leo, but it's come out for several signs subsequently. And that I find interesting anyway, because everything that happens here is part of the reading as far as I'm concerned. So the deck that wants to be used gives a certain flavour to the reading, and when there's a deck that's so new that I have not even seen all of the images on it shows up, it says to me that there's a new message that's coming through for the sign concerned, and in this case it's that for you, Virgo. So just as it was for Leo, and I cannot even remember the other sign, maybe Gemini, possibly, I can't remember. Anyway, so we're using this one today. Other things to tell you before we begin: if the reading resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via the first link in the description box below this video. The second link is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. There you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. Hang out with an extraordinary group of people and participate in some of the classes and workshops and things that we've got going on over there. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. So without any more ado, let's have a look and see what's going on for Virgo. Can I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? Oh, Lord. Okay, that's the one. Right, we have the Knight of Swords in your recent past. Can I have current energy, please, for Virgo? Ooh, there it is. We have the King of Wands and the Four of Pentacles in your current energy. And let's get one more for what's coming towards Virgo for November, please. Oh, we have the Seven of Pentacles on its side with a bonus additional card of the Eight of Swords. This feels like a breakthrough, she says, as she turns over and sees that the Fool is at the bottom of the deck. This is a breakthrough month for you, but I feel like it's one of those months where the breakthrough isn't immediately obvious and perhaps may not occur quite in the way that you anticipate. So let's just get this little deck out here for clarifiers. Let's get some clarifiers on the table and then we'll run through this, because what's clear is that there is movement, but that movement feels like it's kind of off centre a little bit, which is not, let's face it, ideal. Let's have a look. Knight of Swords. Why is this here for Virgo, please? Why is the Knight of Swords here for Virgo? Well, there you are, showing out. We've got the Three of Pentacles, Ace of Cups and the Fool. Wonderful. Tell me about that. I'm going to stick that Hermit there, actually. Tell me about the King of Wands. Why is he here with the Four of Pentacles, please? We've got the Page of Pentacles. And we also have the Hierophant and the Six of Wands. Interesting. I know this is a bit of a shit show with the way that they're set out, but I'll straighten it up in a second. Tell me about the Seven of Pentacles, please. Thank you. Nine of Wands, Eight of Swords on its side, and the Justice card. This is one of those months where there is a deceptively large energy at play with you. And I say it's deceptively large because it isn't as visible as you would like it to be. Nevertheless, something is still happening. Now, in fact, this kind of bears out what I'm saying. I did not realise that one of the main deck cards had fallen out and was on the floor, but there it is, it's the Moon. And we also have the Seven of Swords appearing there. Now, I'm going to try and make some sense of all of this. I appreciate that there's cards everywhere, and this is not usually how YouTube readings go. Sometimes the extendeds go this way, but there's a lot of energy that's kind of... It doesn't feel like it's moving forwards, and yet the arc of everything that is going on here is moving you forwards. But I feel like the route to the forward motion isn't quite what you expect it to be. Best laid plans and all of that. So move my phone out of the way before I launch it out the fucking window. Right. Okay. So we can see pretty much everything that's going on the table here. It's a complex energy, and Virgo, are we surprised? I mean, things are always a little complex where you're involved, right? It's not your fault. It's simply, I think it's the nature of being a mutable sign, or as it's called in ancient astrology, like a double-bodied sign, right? Because there's that constant duality within you that's looking to be balanced. And I feel like if you're expecting things to go in a straight line this month, you're probably going to be very disappointed. However, this is a month that calls for trust and faith, that the process is actually, that there is a process being undergone here, and there is an underlying intelligence in the way that it works out for you eventually. But that's not to say that it might not be a little frustrating in the first instance. So let's come through here and start over here, because I feel like the complexity starts kicking in over there. Here, things actually feel pretty straightforward. We've got the Knight of Swords, which is Gemini energy, another mutable sign, just as you. But it deals with communication, right? And it's very straight line energy, I think. Although Gemini doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's kind of all over the place. But certainly in terms of the transmission of information, it indicates something going from A to B. Now, whether this is, words and thoughts entering your head via somebody else by way of message or whatever, or whether it's about clearing up your thought patterns. And I feel intuitively like the latter is probably correct here, in so much as you know where you're going, you know where you want to go, you know what, the destination is in mind, and it seems to me that it has seemed to you that the path to get there is relatively straightforward. We have the Three of Pentacles underneath with the Ace of Cups and the Fool. And it seems like there's a lot of investment in the transition of from A to B. This seems like it's something that's been very straightforward in your head. We've got the Three of Pentacles indicating cooperation and collaboration with other people, right? So maybe there are people that you've had to get involved to assist you get to where you are. We've got the Ace of Cups, which is a very, very clean energy in terms of the way that you are relating to yourself at the moment. But I do feel like it's the investment in the new that has been really occupying your mind quite a lot of late. And we see the Hermit card underneath there, interestingly, on its side, right? Now, when it's in the upright, it's talking about the internal journey. It's talking about going within to find the answers. And I do believe that you've done a lot of that, Virgo. When it shows up like this, it's action. Right? We're not going inside anymore. We're actually turning our attention outside. We are coming out of the metaphorical cave, and we're putting ourselves out there. The fact that it's on its side says to me that there's a transition period that you are in right now, and you recognise that. You've been going full bore towards whatever the new thing is, at least in mind, if not in action at this point. But then we come to your current energy. We have the King of Wands and we have the Four of Pentacles. And this feels like it's the point where the separation seems to be beginning to occur. We've got the King of Wands, who is an excellent card, an excellent energy for getting something done, right? Investing your time and your effort and your energy, your vital life force into bringing something to bear, right? Taking some sort of action. It's also indicating courage and boldness and all those sorts of things we associate with Leo. Sometimes even leadership and that and whatnot. But this energy of the Four of Pentacles is a little static, where the King of Wands wants to be active. Now, he's not moving around constantly just for the sake of action, right? With the King of Wands, we've got a maturity in the way that the energy is expressed, right? So it's as much about timing as it is about the action that is being taken. He seems quite relaxed in his chair here, but you'll notice just from the way that his leg is kind of sat back towards him, like he could spring up if he needed to. And he's ready to do so should the situation require it. But then we've got this, it's a funny kind of like flip here. We've got a card that deals with the notion of stasis And we've got somebody trying to pull off this really awkward maneuver of which implies a kind of action, implies a kind of movement, but is rooted to the spot. Now, these two seem to be reflecting each other, because what they want to do is they kind of want to exchange the situation. So the King of Wands, rather than kind of resting back, albeit ready for movement, can actually get up and do a thing. That's what the King of Wands likes to do. And this Four of Pentacles here is somebody who kind of wants to sit back and relax, but there's this very stressful, it looks like a stress position where you try and hold that on some rocks. After a while, your hips are going to give up and your shoulders are going to give up. But there's a reason why he's doing it. And we notice that he's got all of these things underneath him. I pulled the card up so you can see it properly. We've got gold coins, we've got grapes, we've got all sorts of things. But he himself does not look terribly comfortable in that position. So when we're talking about fours, we're always making some sort of nod to a foundational position. And the Four of Pentacles itself usually talks about holding on to something too hard, right? Not letting it go. Conversely, we can flip it around and say sometimes it's about the things that are so precious that they must be held there. For me, the Four of Pentacles can indicate core values and things like that. And I don't feel like the situation is particularly clarified by the clarifying cards that we've got underneath, because we've got the Page of Pentacles. We've got the inception, the initiation of something that is really, really precious. But the implication with this is that it is something new. The implication of this over here is that it is something old. And there seems to be a process here of trying to sift through the new and the old to see what comes with and what gets left behind, what has true intrinsic value, what does not. Now, this could be quite literally your material possessions, but I feel like it's a little bit deeper than that. It's particularly if we're thinking about this in terms of core values, or what do you stand for? What is a foundational anchor point to your existence? And are you feeling it being challenged somewhere by what you're trying to bring in? Like the end result of it all being is that things feel a little bit chaotic. They feel a little bit messy here for you, which is absolute anathema to Virgo. And I feel like the messiness feels more pointed if it is not a material situation, right? Because you can look at it and go, well, this whole fucking thing is a mess. I need to tidy this up, and I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to make it, it's going to be efficient. It's going to be well done. That's it. There's an obvious route to success, and that is that you just need to roll your sleeves up and get on with it. There's something more fundamentally challenging about the cards that are sitting here in the middle, though. Because the Hierophant quite often can speak about heritage and legacy, right? We've got a very definite sense of the before and the after when the Hierophant shows up. And more often than not, that before and that after are relatively undifferentiated. Because the Hierophant is that which has existed for a very long time, right? It's where you come from, but it's also where you're going to. It's not an energy that evolves rapidly. It's very, very slow, and because it's fixed Earth, it's Taurus, right? There's a certain amount of rigidity to it. It feels like there's a paradigm shift that is happening here for you, and what is causing the confusion, what's making it seem really, really difficult for you, is trying to work out what's supposed to come with you and what's not. And like I said, for some of you that might quite literally be material possessions, but for most of you it isn't. I'm going to break my own rule and pull out some more cards. I try not to do this too often, because otherwise we end up with readings that go on for days. But I feel like there's an experience of sufficient complexity going on with you at the moment that we do kind of need to, in that very Virgo way, right? We need to kind of pull it apart and try and see what the bones of this is. My Jupiter and my Saturn are in Virgo, by the way. just going to say that. But before we do that, let's have a little chat about this Six of Wands, because the Six of Wands is Jupiter in Leo. It is a card that speaks of success, and it's something that feels like it takes on a life outside of us, right? It becomes a thing that surrounds us rather than something necessarily that we feel in here. It can speak to, you know, an increase in confidence and whatnot that comes from having succeeded at stuff. It's a bit random, right? But I'm reminded of a study that I read where they monitored levels of testosterone in gorillas. Bear with me, there is a point to this. And they found that they could predict who the winner in a fight would be because of the level of testosterone that was in the gorilla. So obviously more testosterone, you would win. And because each time a gorilla won, it had a little boost of testosterone too, right? So it got to the point where it had this kind of critical mass of it. And but then if it did ever get beaten, its testosterone just like toppled. So rather than being an indicator of success, it was now an indicator of like complete and abject failure. It's interesting. I don't really know where I'm going with this, right? But this notion of success is something that kind of guarantees a new level of success because of it, because of the increase in confidence or some increase in a hormone in the body, right? That's quite often how I feel the Six of Wands kind of operates. It's like a result forming the informing your future capability of success, which increases your confidence, makes you more willing to put yourself out there and do a thing. Now, I've said all of this, but this card isn't in the upright. There's a feeling of great instability here where we're trying to separate from the old and embrace the new, but we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like there's a lot of fine detail here that it feels like you're sifting through, trying to work out what it all means. And, you know, for some of it, it'll be your entire worldview, or, like I said, your core values, your principles. And maybe you find yourself in a situation where it's kind of testing you a little bit, because there's an idea of how you would do things, and then there's the reality of it as it's being presented in front of you. And suddenly these things aren't quite as parallel as you thought they were, because you yourself are in a state of change right now. So it's difficult to feel victorious. It's difficult to feel that boost of confidence that everything is great and wonderful, because you're not really seeing the result of it in your material 3D existence right now. But at the same time, you know the value of going towards the new. So this whole thing is just kind of giving you a bit of a headache at the moment. Let's get an extra card or two on top of here. Thank you. So we have the Three of Wands and we have the Knight of Cups, and that's big. Eight of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Because Three of Wands for me is a low-level card of manifestation, and it's low-level not because it's insignificant and not because it doesn't really mean anything, but because it's the point where we start taking action after the things that we want for ourselves, right? So we've imagined what we want, and then we've taken the action to go after it. It's low level because it's minor arcana. It is the things that are literally within your control. Higher level energies of manifestation you would find in the Magician, or you would find in the Lover's card, right? So there's action happening here. There is actually forward motion happening here, and it's coming from a really good place. We've got the Son of Cups, which is Pisces, a fellow mutable sign, and Saturn is in Pisces at the moment, currently in retrograde. I can't remember when it goes direct. I think we'll all enjoy that a little bit. But the reason why that is relevant, I feel, is because Saturn rules limitations and boundaries, and quite literally the edges of things, right? Gateways, portals, things like that. But in the sign of Pisces, what's happening is a lot of the old structures, a lot of the old limitations, a lot of the boundary edges are being washed away, and doubly so with it being in retrograde at the moment. So there is a very earnest emotional desire to move forwards. it's like everything is in place. But the work here for you is trying to work out what it is that needs to be left behind. We've got the Eight of Pentacles, which is about discipline and commitment. It's a card that I feel actually has a lot in common with the Knight of Pentacles, which is your card within the court hierarchy of the Pentacles. It's discipline, but it is, exactly as I said, it's discipline and commitment and all these kind of things as well. But there is a sense of there being a bigger work involved, as in your great work. Now, you may be focusing simply on trying to get yourself from A to B, A being your current state and B being wherever it is that you're trying to transition to, that you understand the value of and you're putting a lot of energy into. But this Eight of Pentacles makes me feel like the real work, the real spiritual journey is actually what's happening in the grand tableau of what it is that you're experiencing at the moment, which is to say, it is this struggle that you are having that represents actually where the greatest achievements can be brought to bear. It's not about whether you succeed at the thing that you're trying to strive for. It is, in fact, the principle of striving for it in the first place. And the difficulties and the challenges and the struggles that come therewith. You know, we see this spider sat in the middle of a big web, and you know, to try and give some context to what I've just said, you would be the spider in the middle of the web, and one of these pentacles is the result, right? That's where you're going. That's what you're trying to achieve. It's to get from the center of the web up to there. But the real picture here, the real stability of your story is the great expanse of the web. And it's recognizing that you have the ability to move to any of these pentacles without actually undermining the integrity of the bigger story that you're in. I don't know if I've explained that very well. We'll find we often obsess about, particularly about results, right? Attachment to outcome and all that kind of thing. And we find ourselves sometimes stuck in situations where it seems like we're trying to push water uphill with a fork, right? This is beyond the level of Sisyphus. This is something else, right? Yeah, or push the boulder up at the hill. At least there's a point where you're going to reach the top and the boulder's going to roll down again, and you're going to have to take it back up, right? It's just what it is, right? But this is like, how do I even get the boulder up the fucking hill in the first place? This is not happening because I'm trying to put water up, get water uphill with a fork. Like, the energy that you're in right now is canny fucking profound, Virgo. And this is what I'm trying to bring your attention to, right? You've got a current state versus where you want to be, whether that's a specific relocation or whether it's a rejigging of your life experiences, a new job, whatever it is, right? There's some sort of transition from A to B. But it feels to me a little bit like you've either lost sight of, but probably more accurately, just not really perceived what it is that is happening here. It's you yourself are changing, and that's why it feels so difficult. That's why it feels like it's such a struggle. A kind of a proper not being able to see the wood for the trees sort of situation, It's very difficult to feel confident in what you're doing. It's very difficult to feel like you're making the right move and you're taking with you the things that are important when you can't see the wood for the trees. Now, when we move into November, the main card here is actually the Seven of Pentacles, and it's on its side, which I quite like. But then we also have these other cards that are also on their sides. And everything that we say, everything that follows hereafter, needs to be interpreted in light of these cards that have all come out to join us, which feel They felt significant enough for me to put them on the table. We've got the Queen of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, which is all about self-investment and self-care. Are you taking care of yourself, Virgo, or are you losing yourself in the source of what you're trying to do? If you understand that what's happening to you this month is a transformation of you rather than a straight-up transformation of circumstances, then it follows that off the back of the transformation of you, you will be more able to effect a certain number of things than currently you find yourself able to do. It's like shift the focus of what's happening and allow yourself the space and time, and dare I say it, even a degree of patience in what you have been experiencing. Because I do feel like, although all these cards are on their side, which is not ideal, it's not awful either. And that clarity will begin to come during this process. So we have the moon here, which always clouds things up, right? It's very difficult to see things in a straight line when it's illuminated by moonlight, right? And we have this notion of you being on a long journey, and this simply literally being the very first step, the crayfish coming out of the pool, and something that's going to take quite a long time, but doing it by moonlight, that's actually an eclipse going on right there, gives the landscape a very different quality. Right? It's very difficult to pick out the detail, which generally is something that Virgo would like to see more of, and instead what we're looking at is vast silhouettes, right? Or silhouettes of vast things rather. And you're kind of like, well, how am I supposed to navigate my way through all of this? Well, I can't see any of the detail, I can only see these big things. And the answer actually seems to me to be coming by way of these cards here. This Eight of Swords, whilst not in the first instance an obviously positive card, I actually get really, really excited when I see this in my own personal readings, because this is the problem. We can't see the way forward, but it is also simultaneously the solution, and it's that bit that makes me excited, because what it says is you're actually not trapped, you're actually not stuck. It is the way that you are thinking about the situation that is leading you to believe that, and what you believe is what you see, it's what propagates, it's what you focus on. So we've got a shift in perhaps core values, perhaps core beliefs, that is happening right now and playing out right the way through November, because what this is telling you is that you're not going to see the path forward. Like, that's not getting highlighted for you. You can see some of it, but you can only really see the big silhouettes of the big things, right? You're missing all of the detail that preferentially you would like to be able to see. But this is a question of faith. It's a question of trust. It's a question of, quite literally, taking the leap, being bold, taking the chance, even though you can't see where you're going. I mean, for here, this chap's blindfolded. You can see that. Let me hold this up so you can see it. And I think it's really fascinating that there is a bull on this card. Bear in mind that I haven't seen the imagery of half of these cards at all. I've just seen what's come up in the readings for other people. What we've got there is an underlying strength that you yourself cannot see. That seems to me to be a really strong message about this one. So, you can hear the water, you can feel the heat of the fire. There's an awareness that there are swords there, but you yourself are not bound. Right? This is mental gymnastics that are going on here. So, have you been thinking too hard about everything? Well, Virgo, that's entirely possible, right? Where can you allow yourself to relax, take care of you, and allow things to unfold as they will, being the energy of the Fool, being the energy of the Seven of Swords, and bringing all of this to bear to a moonlit walk that you seem to be going on right now, understanding that you yourself are transitioning into something else, into someone else, and that the mindset that accompanies that then also must change. So when we come to November, having all of that going on in the background, we have the Seven of Pentacles. which is very, very interesting, because when it's in the upright, it's a card that's not really positive, that I read quite positively. A card that I did not actually understand for the longest time, because it didn't make sense to me. At least the kind of established interpretations didn't make sense to me as to why that Seven of Pentacles would be there instead of here. The way that I read this card is that something in your environment is wrong. Now, that could be where you live, it could be the job that you're in, it could be the job role that you're in, it could be a relationship that you're in, or it could be that there is something fundamentally misaligned now within you, right? Part of that which is striving towards the new is in active conflict with a bit of you that wants to stay in this very difficult stress position, guarding the old. That's where the fundamental misalignment is, right? When it shows up reversed like this, we have all of those meanings, but we now understand exactly what it is that is out of alignment, out of whack, that isn't suiting us, right? There's something that's causing friction somewhere, and we are empowered to be able to do something about it. Now, for you, in November, that card's on its side, which means it's moving, it's transitioning, it's going, I think, from here to here, but it's not entirely clear. We also have the Nine of Wands on its side, the Eight of Swords again on its side, and then finally the Justice card. And what I like about the ending of the Justice card there is the idea that whatever happens, things need to be brought into alignment. What's going on here for you now, and what's going on in November, is not the achievement of goals. It's not the strategic relocation of Virgo from one place to another, be it job, relationship, home, whatever it is. It is about something that is changing within you. And until you find a way to balance those energies, they are fundamentally conflicted. There's a lot of fear around this Nine of Wands. And I feel like the fear is, am I making things harder for myself than they need to be? You know, I'm trying to make my life more simple. I'm trying to clear this sort of stuff out. I'm trying to allow myself to grow. But am I actually making a rod for my own back here, when just in a short amount of time I'm going to be like, why the fuck have I even bothered trying to do this? It was much more comfortable where I was, in my comfort zone. That's the kind of fear that I'm getting off this Nine of Wands here, right? The hunted, or rather haunted look that we see on this guy's face here is just like, it's never fucking ending. It's never going to fucking stop. It always ends. It always stops. The only thing that is consistent within the universe is the fact that everything changes, right? But we have to come to that conclusion. Like, we have to see, no matter how uncomfortable things are now, there will be a point where, one way or the other, all of this is going to be resolved. It's going to either work or it's not going to work. I'm going to win or I'm going to learn. You know, the faith and the trust that I was talking about earlier, obviously, if we can have that in the universe, that is fantastic. But in the first instance, what it's asking of you, Virgo, is to have faith and trust in yourself. Such that you can allow your mindset to change through this struggle, through this difficulty that you're having at the moment. Because, like I said, it's very easy to fixate on what is not going right at the moment. It's very easy to get really stuck on this Eight of Swords. Things aren't working out. This is, why did I even start all of this? And it feels to me like you've lost sight that it is this battle in and of itself that is the progress. We see it here and here and here. The only thing that you really need to do at this point is be patient with yourself. Well, quite exactly. This Justice card is bringing everything into balance. There's a new alignment that is coming in for Virgo, right? That hopefully will be much more confident and much more stable. But we cannot take our stability with us while we are in the process of change. Like the two things are fundamentally incompatible, and maybe that's the issue. Like, things are changing and you feel like you're up a height about it, and you're like, well, maybe if it was good that things were changing, I wouldn't feel like this. I actually described this to my partner earlier this year. It's just like I get transition anxiety. Like, I'm fine in one place and then fine in another, but it's the movement of one thing to another that really bothers me, even though there's literally no reason for me to have that at all. It is just a thing that I have, right? I'm just fine wherever. Just like, that bit though. I think if you were expecting these things to be easy because of how much you had grown and how many things you had sorted out within yourself, then you've probably led yourself down a false road. Because things will always be challenging, particularly when transition is involved, some sort of change, and doubly so when it's change of you, because there is no map for this. It's quite interesting. I've had this same point come out quite a lot in personal readings that I've done recently, which is to say that, you know, when we're on the point of transition and change, we literally cannot even begin to understand what it will be like on the other side of that. We think we can, but what we're doing there is taking the level of consciousness that we're at there and just trying to project it forwards. But there's no growth there with that. There's actually no change. What we're doing is just picking ourselves up as we are now and plonking ourselves into some sort of new reality, right? I mean, like, oh, I'll be fine, it'll be great. In reality, you can only really perceive what you've been through on the other side of the process when you kind of look back, right? I've said literally only last night, like I never realised there would be a point where I would kind of feel comfortable in my own skin, that I could, dare I say it, feel quite happy and content with myself. Like, it was completely beyond my capacity to understand at that point, and that was kind of the point. That was the thing that was changing, my inability to be able to perceive that versus my ability to actually live it. You know, I'm going to bring it back to this again. There is a huge arc playing out here, Virgo. And because you're fixating on the stuff that's right in front of you, whether it's in here or out there, you're kind of missing the bigger picture. And that's okay, because I feel like that's actually where you're supposed to be. But it's going to take quite a lot for you to be able to step back and trust yourself, have faith in yourself, and then by extension everything that is happening around you, and know that each step you take, you're going to be, you're either going to win or you're going to learn, right? Because we look at this, and this can absolutely fill us with horror, but if we really want the big changes, sometimes we have to take that step, not knowing where we're going to land. Sometimes we have to take that step, not being able to see the detail of what is in front of us, moving only towards those bigger silhouettes in the distance. We have to be bold. Right? What's changing here is your whole way that you see the world and that you see you. And everything will play itself out in time. You just need to be patient with yourself while it's happening. This is really interesting, Virgo. Wow. Highly complex situation that you're kind of wrestling with at the moment. But very, very interesting nonetheless. So I'm going to go and do the extended now. And if you would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Vimeo, or you could come join us on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your bag, then I think it's really important for you to just take on board that where you are is exactly where you are supposed to be. And what you are struggling with is actually the result. Like that, this is the stuff here that personal growth is made of. Not getting from A to B. It's turning into the kind of person that occupies place B. You see what I mean? Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.